Welcome to Jenny's Rules. This is episode 21.
I love the number 21.
I know, this is so good. We'll talk more into that. Now you told me. I've got Rachel Frost from Century 21.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I mean, this is just honored that people are wanting to be on here. It's just even more fun.
Well, I love it. I mean, I've watched. I will be honest with you. I've not watched all of your episodes, but I've watched a lot of them, and I've loved them. And I literally have. As you know, I work with your mother-in-law, and so
Yes.
I literally told her, I was like, "How do I get on Jenny's podcast? Like, it seems cool. I want to be on there. I want to hang out with Jenny."
I mean, it's a fun time. I try to make it a fun time.
Oh yeah.
But first, foremost question, the forward question: how long have you been in the real estate industry?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going into my third year now, and it has been the most life-changing thing, basically. And I know that's so cliche to say, but it really has, especially getting into real estate as young as I did. It's
Absolutely
been an insane growth journey for sure.
Yeah.
But I love everything about it.
How did it come about to you, like, getting interested in joining?
So it's actually a funny story. We have COVID to thank for that. So I was going down to school down in Boise, and I was planning on a 4-year degree, and I was kind of not sure about the track I was on to begin with, but I don't know, I was just kind of riding the waves. And then COVID happened, and everything got jumbled up, and going into the spring semester of my second year, my counselor, my advisor told me that I couldn't get into any of my required classes because of the class size limits. And so I was like, what does that mean? And she was just like, well, you're going to have to take a semester of electives. And I was like,
What a waste.
Exactly. I was like, I don't pay that much money in tuition for a semester of electives. And so then I just went into a spiral and was like, I don't even know if I'm happy on this course. Like, what am I doing? And so, typical young adult thing, I called my dad expecting a pep talk. Like, you can do this. Like, just you figure it out. Persevere, kid. And instead, my dad was just like, okay, if you want to be done, then be done. And I was like, what? And he goes, but if you're going to move home and be done, what's next? Because you're not just moving home and doing nothing. I will not support that. Like, you need to know what is your next journey. And I was like, okay, now that I know I have my dad's support, like, I can actually get out of Boise. I can figure out what I really want to do. And I decided to actually follow through with school and finish out the 2 years and at least get an associate's degree. I wanted to at least have something to show for my time there.
Sure.
And I just kind of started poking around at different careers, what I wanted to do. And I just kind of stumbled into real estate. I just kind of started watching videos on it, just kind of taking free online classes, basically nothing too intense, but just trying to educate myself on it.
Anything you can.
Yeah, literally. And I was like, I told my dad about it, and he was like, I think that's a really great idea. Like, nobody in our family's ever done it, and I think you'd be really good at it. It's a personable career, and you're somebody who likes to talk a lot. So I was like, okay. And so I figured out what it entailed, how to do it, and I just I dived in,
Jumped in.
Yeah.
Are you Idaho and Washington licensed?
Nope. Only Idaho.
Only Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and where you live,
Yeah.
which is a little out of town here, is that, Homestead? That's where you're going to plan on staying?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. I was born and raised in Grangeville.
Yep.
And then I just got married last fall. And so my husband and I actually moved to, we're about 10 minutes outside of Kuski-Kamei area. So we actually dropped down into that valley because he works down there.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of in the middle of nowhere, but we love it. That's what we wanted. Grown up always being in the middle of nowhere. I really don't know that I could live in town. I don't think I could do it after always having that drive.
Life.
Yeah.
I'm from Cottonwood, and so I definitely know that drive very well. But coming to Lewiston was like the big city to us, especially when we were that young. My parents were like, oh yeah, let's hit McDonald's, let's hit Costco, like the places to go.
Right.
But it's that outside life, that smaller hustle and bustle. It's still hustle bustle, but not, I would
different
say.
kind. Exactly. It's just it's a different flow of hustle and bustle, basically.
Yeah. So when it comes down to, area wise, what is your expertise, I guess I would say, in your niche?
My niche?
You want to call it a niche?
Um, honestly, I wouldn't really call it a niche yet because I'm still so new. So I really honestly just work with anyone and everyone, and anywhere that I can. I do primarily work in the outlying counties. I obviously will take deals in Nez Perce County. I've helped multiple people in Nez Perce County, but primarily love to work out in the small towns. That's my community. Those are the people that I know, and I know that area a lot better. So I have much more education there. I can show people around. I can teach them things. Versus here, like Lewiston it's new to me. I didn't grow up here. I don't know as much about it. So
Split level.
yeah, exactly.
The split level.
And so, yeah, I enjoy being able to give people a lot of the times when people want to move to a rural community like that, they want that out of town life. And so I love to be able to give that to them and find that for them because that's what I had growing up. And it's truly, there's nothing like it, being able to have that ability to grow up outside of town and be that farm kid who just had no worries and going inside was the end of the world. Like,
Right.
no,
Don't lock your door. I don't even know if we ever locked our door.
never. I was like, my dad's house is still unlocked. I've never seen a key from my dad's house. Like,
Doesn't exist.
it's not a thing. I'm one of those people who's like, I'll lock my vehicle, but like not the house when you live out there. It's weird. But it's wonderful.
Yeah. And when it comes to comps, and this is something that I kind of am like a little curious, when it comes down to, those smaller areas, are you allowed to go into a different county to look at comps and all that?
I mean, you can, but it's necessarily not, you're not always going to be as accurate.
Okay.
If you have to branch out into another county, you can obviously make things work. But ideally, no, you want to try and stay because there is, even though we're only 70 miles apart, there is a big price difference a lot of times in the houses and everything else. So it's ideally best to kind of stay out in those rural counties for your comparables. But like I said, you can if you need to.
Don't have one though. What if there was an instance where you just couldn't find to that? I don't know. What do you do?
That's actually a really good question because I had that issue this week.
You did?
Yes.
This week? Oh my gosh.
I was getting so frustrated and my broker was helping me out and I was just like, these comps are going to be the end of me because I can't find these comps. And so then at that point, Wendy she is a wealth of knowledge. And so she's taught me so many wonderful skills, personal and in the business. Right. And so when that instance happens, you got to dig a little deeper. And so we got to go back into, because it's very rare that you can't find anything to compare it to. And so you got to find something, but then you got to get mathematical with it and try and do your pricing in other ways.
Got it.
Like price per square footage and think about all of the other ways that you can do this.
Got it.
And I know I still have so much more to learn, but Wendy's helped me a lot with that.
Yeah.
Like finding alternative routes to correctly price them.
That's good. And I mean, at least some guidance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's, price right real estate. So it's very important to us. And like I said, she's wonderful at being able to teach those different avenues.
Yeah. Do you consider Wendy a mentor?
Highly.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
She is, like I said, a wealth of knowledge. I'm eternally grateful for the growth she's given me in the business and just as a human being.
That's fun.
Yeah. I've told her that before. I'm so happy that my 19-year-old self decided to just have a conversation with her and never look back because I credit a lot of my growth in the last 3 years to her because she has that ability to be like, Rachel, snap out of it. Like, this is not how we do things and teach me so much. And I've loved it.
Oh, good. And you've only been at Century 21, right? Yep. If you didn't have that guidance or if, someone's starting out that just, is going into a new brokerage and not really having anyone, what are some pros and cons? Cons probably for sure, but how would you have just been so blinded by things or?
Probably I think it really depends on the person and how determined you are to try and find the answer to something. Because I have always been the type of person I'm going to figure it out. Like I got to find a way. So if somebody can't help me find the answer, then I'm going to find it on my own. It might take me a week. It might take me a month, but I'm going to figure it out. And so, of course, there's definitely going to be cons to not having guidance, especially in this career. But luckily enough, there are a lot of very supportive agents in this community. And so I've been able to rely on senior agents and be like, hey, what does this mean? Like, how do I do this? And I've usually always gotten a very good response. Somebody's always willing to lend a hand.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's one thing I love about our area.
Yeah.
The community over competition is super important to me. Like, we're all working together for the same goal here.
Exactly.
So it's better for us to just work together than work against each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
With your very first transaction that you ever did, you remember it?
I do.
Is there anything that you take now as a form of learning? I'm sure you learn at every single one of them, but like my first one, I remember certain things where it's like, oh my gosh, scarred for life, never doing that again. Is there anything that was memorable about your first transaction?
Ironically enough, my first transaction came, this isn't really a learning thing. It's just a very small world thing. One of my friends from high school who temporarily had to live with me and my father. She ended up having to go through some hard stuff, and so she ended up moving in temporarily, and we ended up parting ways shortly after high school. And we would stay in touch, but kind of not really. And then it was her and her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's the one that found me.
Oh.
And so when he was like, yeah, you need to meet my girlfriend, it was like, hi, haven't seen you in forever. And so that was just kind of like a bittersweet, the world is small thing.
Oh yeah, so small.
But I definitely look back at my confidence. That is one thing that just like blows my mind, is my confidence in my first transaction. It was, I couldn't even breathe without asking Wendy if I was doing things correctly. And I was just like, did I do this right?
Tiptoeing and making sure everything was dotted. And yes.
So it's been really awesome to see my growth as far as confidence goes, and how much I've learned just in general to be able to just handle things on my own and handle them confidently.
Absolutely. I mean, confidence is key. Whether, I tend to be a little goofy where I'm just like, I'm going to get back to you on that because I don't want to tell you the wrong thing.
Right.
Just wait, just give me some time. But everyone's very in that like quick, I need that answer now kind of feel. So I tend to try to be a little goofier on it where like, I'll get that to you as soon as I can.
Right. And I definitely, I still have to do that. I've done that a lot. True. It's just like, I don't know that right now. Yeah. I'm going to get it to you. And I will.
Yes.
And I always deliver on that promise. And obviously I try and do it as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And if I run into complications, I think the biggest thing when that happens is just communicate with your client. Just communicate. It's when they get left in the dark that it's frustrating. And so I'm just always honest with them. I'm like, here's the thing. I'm working on it. I've ran into these road bumps, but you sit tight and trust me. I got you.
There you go. There you go. How long... I don't know. In fact, when you got licensed to your first transaction, what was that gap like? Remember that timeline?
That was almost a year, actually.
Yeah.
It was the better part. I think it was like 7 months.
Yeah. Because I got buying, you were on the buyer side.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. It was it was a little over a year before I got my first listing. And I'll definitely be 100% straight honest. I was one of those naive people that did not realize how much goes into real estate.
Right.
I fell for the HGTV life of being a realtor is. And it's like, that's so not true.
Yeah. Selling sunsets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh,
and so I definitely was one of those people that are like, yeah, it can't be that hard. No, it is that hard.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's time consuming. It's dedication. And so it was something I had to struggle with a lot and learn through. As I was just like, Wendy, like, am I failing? Dad, am I failing? Just like talking to all of my people in life that I trusted and relied on. And they were just like, no, keep going every single day. Put one foot in front of the other. I believe in you. You believe in you. And it's going to happen for you if you just stay dedicated. And they were right.
Boom.
Exactly.
Your inner circle.
Yes.
Oh, that's so good though. I feel like, you can't do things alone like that, especially if your own brain is attacking yourself, like, no, are you doing it okay? It's just that inner fight that you have with yourself.
Exactly.
But having the outside world to at least, give you that, no, you're fine.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of how I felt too.
Oh, and especially going into this industry being so young, like I very rarely would meet anybody. I was
going to say, are you the youngest?
As far as I know.
Nice.
As far as I know, like I definitely have agents that are within like 3 to 5 years. So that's the closest I can find. And agents in other parts of the state that I found that are kind of the same age, but
Look at you.
very few that are actually right there with me at this age. And like I said, coming into it at 19, 20
19.
years old,
Yeah.
I was just like, how am I supposed to convince somebody 3 times my age that I know what I'm doing when they've bought and sold a home 3 times?
Listen, you know what I was doing at 19? You know what I was doing at 19?
I would love to know what you were doing at 19.
Running away from boys. Oh my gosh. I was like, I think that was the year I told myself I wasn't going to date anyone for a year.
I love that.
Broke up with my boyfriend. I was like, nope, not going to do it. And then met my husband. So,
Oh, love that.
Oh, that's so wild.
Mhm.
Oh, if I could just tell my younger self, listen, figure it out.
Mhm.
Get your shit together. I said I'm going to curse, but I mean, just that confidence that you have at this age to see where you are 10 years. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
You're going to be scary good.
Thank you.
So scary good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh, I love it. And then, of course, I've had a couple senior or, seasoned, let me not say senior, seasoned agents sit with me and talk with me about their legacy and stuff. To be able to see you excel and then tell people about your legacy is going to be phenomenal.
And that's one thing that, a lot of the seasoned agents that I look up to is one thing that they've said is, I wish I would have started this sooner.
Right.
I wish I would have been at this at your age.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, I'm so glad that I found it.
Yeah.
And I hope that I can be even half of what you've done in this
Yeah.
career.
Could you mentor?
I would love to. That's a goal of mine.
Oh, cool.
I definitely want to.
I can feel it. I can definitely see you just the way that you sit here and talk. I can definitely see it. So that's very cool.
I would love to. Yeah. And I mean, anybody that I want to be one of those agents that shares my knowledge, of course, because like I said, community over competition. I want to support you in any way that you can.
Yeah.
Because what good is it going to do me to bring you down?
Absolutely. No, nothing.
Exactly. So I'm like, why would I try and even go that route when I can just lift you up and help you build your success? And then I know that it'll come back to me. Like you're in this industry with me. You're going to have a buyer someday that I need for my seller and vice versa.
Right. And you're going to end up working with someone, down the line. It always seems like everyone at least once, passes over. So for sure.
It's so much nicer to do transactions when you just have a good relationship with that agent. Because we can just get shit done.
Exactly.
And get things done together. And it's wonderful.
Well, and to be like the truth of it, of course, when I first started, I'm hearing all these stories like, oh yeah, and I look like this and I can do this and I'm confident in it. And it's like, I want the real stuff. This just doesn't seem real. I mean, and for you to say like it took a year, which is, hard work and dedication to get where you are. What did you do in that year, differently as in terms of just like yourself, like how much time you spent on things, or did you do just mock transactions or?
I did anything that I possibly could. Of course, I definitely did lots of mock contracts with Wendy. I would have her give me scenarios and
PSA.
Yeah, I laid contracts inside and out. And I remember first one I did, I sent it back to her and she just sent it back just marked up with so much red. And I was like, that's a little offensive, but okay. But it was like, thank you. I needed that.
Yes.
I needed that so much. And so I did lots of that and then as much education as I possibly could. I feel like I dove myself into those CE classes.
Oh, good.
I tried to not necessarily shadow agents, but just kind of ask them questions, ask what they did, get their advice. Like, hey, what advice do you have for your first year self? Like, what should I be doing right now? And like I said, everybody was really willing and helpful. Like, hey, look at this program, check out this thing, do this thing. And so I really just I just was a sponge, basically. And then I, of course, worked really hard at getting my name out there, making sure my friends and family knew what I was doing, trying to just show people like, hey, this is my new thing. This is what I'm doing. And so it was just really a lot of being a sponge and speaking about myself and letting people know what I was doing as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, because when I started is when the rates just skyrocketed. Exactly the same month that both my licenses became active. I was like, oh no. And so definitely that getting my face out there and talking to people, and because you can't just sit and have things come to you. And that was like now what do I do? Twiddle thumbs thing.
Excuse me. Wow.
A squeak in my.
I'm so sorry. Just had to hiccup. My bad.
Your face too much, just like.
If my husband was here, he would laugh because that's you can ask anyone in the office. It's a very normal thing. I just hiccup. Just one hiccup. It's all that happens. It's just one. I don't know why.
The cutest little squeak. I'm sorry. I was like, should I keep going?
Please continue. It shouldn't happen again.
Just one and done.
If it does, though, don't be surprised.
Where we started that, I was gonna be like coughing hysterical. Oh my god.
We talked it into existence. So
I don't even remember.
Something about you being licensed.
Something about me. Zero. Nothing. That was
No.
too good.
I was gonna ask you, how long have you been licensed?
Almost 2 years.
Nice.
Full years. Yep.
Nice.
I'm trying to think.
And the math is
The timing. Oh my gosh. The fact that my daughter and my son are going to be, older.
Right.
My son's going to be in double digits this year too. So it's just like, there's no way. There's no way.
time flies.
Someone asked me at the brewery, I was doing game night and they were like, how old are you? And I was like,
How do I live?
how old do you think I am? He was like, at least 20, 28. And I was like, that's my maturity level talking. I am way older than that, but yeah, no, I think my license, which was funny because Washington, I don't know, from what I've heard was like Idaho's was quicker or something, but I got my Washington's approved first and then my Idaho took forever.
Right.
Just because of
And that's so ironic because that's what I've heard from a lot of people, but like mine was, because I tried to get licensed in Washington.
Did you?
I really did.
Yeah.
And it was just a nightmare. I think it was because it was the year after COVID and
They were backed up. Yes.
Yes.
Even just the renewal, because January, it's always the worst. And I passed my test, I think, in June that year.
Yep.
And they were still doing approvals for that.
So that was, I don't know what I was doing wrong. Like I did my application, I got it out to him, I did everything. And then I tried to like actually get somebody to just help me approve my application and like schedule my reciprocity exam and just do what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Could not make my way into anything. Like Wendy was emailing all of the higher ups that she could connect to. It literally, I tried for like 8 months to a year. It finally got to the point where when I would call them and let them know my name, they'd be like, you have a case number. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And so then it like got to the point where when I'd tell people my name and that I was trying to get a reciprocity exam, they hung up on me. And I was like, Wendy, they don't want me over there.
That's a sign. That's a sign.
And so now I've sworn off Washington. I'm like, you know what? I work in the outlying counties anyway. It benefits me so much more to just refer it out.
There you go.
And like I very rarely have anybody that even wants to be over there.
Sure.
So when they fall in my lap or I find them or they come to me, I'm just like, here you go. Here's my trusted Washington agent. Have a ball.
There you go.
I'm out.
There. You know what? That's a sign. Take those signs.
Yep.
I'm a full sign believer too.
I'm okay with it. I'm like, it's less fees I got to maintain, less knowledge. And those Washington contracts sound like scariness.
All that stuff for the new when the law stuff changed. Oh yeah. I feel you. And like just the paperwork between the two, and all the appraisal stuff. It's just all different. And it's crazy how we're just so close for it to be that wild. But yeah. And I think my Washington, and so then when I finally got them both, at the same time is when just things hit the fan. And it was funny because I had my daughter, I quit my job, I tried to stay at home, I went nuts. And I kept telling myself, by the time I'm 30, I at least want my shit together. I want to know at least, have some sort of stability on like career and all that. And I love my kids dearly. But for the people that can stay home with them 24, good for you. Right. That's awesome. I mean, I'm one of those that just, I get to homestead and I'm like,
yeah, I get it.
So I
get it.
I needed something. And so I pursued this as, kind of a, hopefully, by the time I'm 30, and I did have to pass my test a few times. Three to be exact. I love that. And with ours, funny enough, because I think you guys you can take it over and over and over, and we have limits. So like if you failed the third time, you have to wait 6 months to take it again. And then if you fail that, then they make you take a whole course again. So it was like crazy. So I got to my first test, I missed it by 2 points. Second test, I missed it by 1 point. Wait, did I say that backward?
No.
One test. Yeah, I did that.
You did. Okay.
So the third one, I went in just like, this is it.
That you got.
Yeah, because I was like, the past 6 months, I'm past 30. So then it's like, my birthday.
Right.
Like, I got to figure it out. So I did it.
Good job. So proud.
I know. And so then that September, I turned 30. And so that was kind of my like, I did it.
Weird. I like
Yes,
I love it.
But again, I'm 30 and just figuring out what I want to do, or my long-term goal. But I don't know. I'm super grateful for where I started in this time, because like kind of this is like my norm now. And so when things, have been picking up or pick up more to maybe back to where it was before, then it'll be like, this is busy and so.
And that's something else that I've also heard from a lot of people that have commended me for being where I'm at such a young age, is that they're still grateful for what they went through at a young age. And they're happy that and I think that's super important, because if you didn't go through what you went through, you wouldn't have found this at all in your life. And I
can't make it through the dark, tough times. How are you going to do it when it's
exactly? And so like for me, I credit everything to my father and to my family. He is just amazes me even to this day. He is just, I lost my mother when I was 8. And so he raised my 3 sisters and I by himself. And honestly, 3 of the 4 of us are entrepreneurs. We're self-employed just like he was.
Wow.
And so, and the 4th one, she's a freaking vet. So she's wonderful too.
Oh my God.
And so it's just like, having such a remarkable and driven, hardworking role model, I think that's truly what set my sisters and I where we wanted to be. And it was just like, when you have, he's just amazing. I couldn't say good enough things about my father. He's a wonderful human being, and I am eternally grateful for everything he's done and continues to do. I'm like, even now, poor thing, he's 63 years old and he's getting double rotator cuff surgery.
Oh no! At the same time,
he just got one done, and now
I was like,
he's gonna try and get this one fully healed before he does the other one. But it's very hard for him to sit still. He can't do it. And so I'm like, it's okay, Dad. Like, maybe this is God's way of telling you it's time to slow down. Yeah. Slow down, man.
It doesn't sound like he ever will.
No, I don't think he can. I don't know if it's possible.
Could you?
Right. It's like, I'm like, no, I think that's one thing I did have to learn from him, is it's like, it's okay to take a break sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely very few and far between, because same thing. If I'm sitting still for too long, it's like, okay. Yeah. What's next? What am I doing?
I'm also a hands-on learner. Yeah. I love learning new things. Just like always. That's like opportunity.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's where I've recently got into a lot of trying to do my own homemaking of everything.
Ooh.
Doing the homemade breads, bagels, and all the baking.
Sourdough? Ooh.
Exactly. My sister's a sourdough queen. I did it. I was enjoying it, but my husband and I don't eat enough bread, and sourdough, it's just a commanding little guy.
I was talking to my friends. I was like, I think I'm naive. You have to feed this thing. And it could be 20, 30 something years old. Like, you have to burp the thing. I don't know. I was like, what is this thing?
It's process.
You can keep a plant alive,
literally,
let alone something that grows,
right?
That you eat. Like, no. That sounds like a garden.
It's true. I killed mine. It was like intentional. I was like, I can't keep up with you anymore.
We moved into our house that we bought. They had a garden and there was asparagus. It was like, oh, this is so cool. We ate it all the time. And then I remember going out there and be like, where's all the asparagus? Well, we don't know how to take care of it. They're all like, oh, awesome. No.
Dang it.
I know. With the counties, how many are there in Idaho? Do you know?
I know that Idaho County is the largest, though.
It is.
The one thing I know.
Oh, shoot. And I did.
For some reason, the number 18 comes to, but I know there's got to be more than that.
There is more.
There's more than that. I don't know.
There is, but I gotta. I got to think in my brain. I did trivia. I did an Idaho's trivia. And that was one of them. But there was a girl there. I think she was a teacher. She wrote them all in alphabetical order. Apparently, there's a song and wrote them all out. And I was like, yeah, you get the point. There's no. You get the extra point. Yeah, I don't care.
It's this 3
That's
points. It. Wow. That's impressive because, I don't know.
The counties that you have dealt with, I guess. Do you know the counties that you've been in with?
Yeah. So I primarily work in Idaho and Clearwater County. Yeah. And Lewis, because Kamiai's that weird one. It's
a little weird.
It's very annoying, right?
How do you? Is there a line that you can just
right? It's like I don't understand how half the town is in Lewis County and then the other half's in Idaho County. It's very frustrating. I just want to talk to somebody about that and be like, can we? I'll draw the line.
Listen, I have a question.
Yes, but no, those are primarily the counties that I work in, and then actually the next one is Nez Perce.
Oh, cool.
I've had a lot of interactions with like Latah County, but nothing that's ever actually closed.
Sure. Sure. What's it mean for your car mileage for all this travel?
Let's just say I have a 2021 vehicle that I bought with only 6,000 miles on it. I'm now at 60,000 miles.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's
dang. Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
Tax wise, I'm sure. Do you do your own taxes or do you have someone do your taxes?
My lovely sister, who is a bookkeeper and
entrepreneur.
Yep. She's great, man.
So when it comes down to vehicle stuff, what is something that you take for tax, like as for your job? Because it's a huge part of it.
Oh yeah. As far as, we can't always write off everything, of course. But I try and track my mileage and my gas and then kind of see at the end of the year how they coincide with each other. But those are typically the two biggest things. And then sometimes you can write out, you can't, this is her question because she's the one that knows what I can and can't do. But I think like some of my maintenance I can, but I'm not entirely sure. There's a limit for sure on what actually can be done. But the biggest thing is just your gas and your mileage, basically.
Tracking it.
Yeah. Anything else, it's kind of that fine line. You got to figure out what you can and can't do, basically.
When it comes down to like trying to sell a property, and again in such a small area, what are some things that you do differently to promote, those kinds of listings than you would maybe here in town?
Open houses are definitely still very important to do in the outlying communities, but it's a little bit harder to get as much traction because if it's a rural property, it's not like there's going to be a lot of traffic driving by to see your open house sign. So I try and like to do giveaways for those to try and entice people to show up.
There you go.
And then just tons of extra marketing. I try and always do like a video walkthrough of myself. Drone footage is huge on those rural properties. And so really social media is a really big marketer for those rural properties because so many people want the rural property dream, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge part of it. But then I also like to do mailers. I'll do mailers to like the neighbors, be like, hey, property's for sale. And so that way the whole neighborhood's kind of the whole community, I guess, more so is notified.
That house
notified what's for sale. Because especially some of those rural properties that have been there for years, decades, and have never been for sale. So it's like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to see the so-and-so ranch. And so people are like, when's an open house? Can I view it? And that is sometimes something you have to try and avoid is looky-loos, people that are just wanting to get into it because it's like, wow.
Yeah.
But it's definitely fun to try and get creative with the marketing for sure.
That is cool. I mean, when I talked to a few, on the podcast, that was like before they had that major social media, how they platformed and how they marketed it, it's wild to think of that time difference, But what, I guess, percentage would you say are people that are moving into the small town, not from the small town? Like if you could guess? Honestly,
it's a good amount. I really, as far as percentage goes, because there's a lot of, I definitely want to say probably over 30%.
Oh, wow.
There's quite a bit. The one thing that I run into is a lot of the out-of-staters, it takes them a while to commit to something sometimes. I get the ones who it's pretty immediate. They're like, we want here now. We want here yesterday. And it's like, okay, got it, cool. But then we have the other ones who really want to look for a while. They actually want to make sure that they know where they're going. And The biggest thing is especially finding the right place, because like being in Grangeville versus going down to Kamei, it's completely different community, different people, different weather,
seasonal. Oh yeah.
It's everything's crazy different. And then there's my favorite is never fails to crack me up is when I get out of staters who find Pierce and Weep, and they're like this little adorable little mountain town, and I'm like, do you know what that mountain town is? There's one store.
Drive through it.
Literally. And that's the thing is I'll take them there and they're like, is this, I don't understand. And I'm like, I told you. And then I'm like, are you prepared for 5 feet of snow? Are you prepared to live here all like 7 months out of the year? And they're just like, no.
Deep freezers everywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, maybe encourage you to get a cabin up here that you can visit in the summertime or the wintertime, like whatever your hobbies are. Mm-hmm. Definitely lots of cabins owned up in that area for seasonal travel. But you got to be built different to live there year round. My husband worked there for a year, and I remember going to visit him. I was just like,
oh yeah,
I can't do this.
That grade from way up to Pier. No, no, thank you.
Either of them, whether you're doing the Grange Mom
or Grange Mom,
either of them.
Oh right, yeah.
Like especially when there's ice on them, I'm just like, nope.
I'm not even gonna walk. I can't even walk down with my feet if it's like that icy. Mm-hmm. No.
And then you get the log trucks that are either angry because you're going too slow or angry because you're going too fast.
And never the same.
No, it's just like, you know what? It's icy. I'm scared. You're educated. It's cold. Yeah.
At least you give them though, like the chance to go and see it and just say, is
like,
this
here? Is this what you thought it was? Like, I just wanted you to see. And yeah, it's anybody that's ever called me and been curious in those towns. Yeah. Once we got there, they were like, this is not what Google told me it was. And I was like, of course not. We don't trust everything we see on Google.
No, gosh, no. If you had someone that, never sight unseen, maybe kind of like, had that where they haven't seen the physically been in the town.
I have not represented one, but yes, I know of people. I've become friends with people who moved here from out of state, bought something completely sight unseen. So next to properties that I've sold and just listening to the stories.
Yeah.
And luckily, those have all been pretty good. The worst thing that's happened is the house sight unseen was what was bad, rather than the area.
Yeah.
The area, I mean, they'd have to figure it out, but doing the house sight unseen, not getting an inspection is just red flag.
Oh no.
But yeah, I've had definitely, actually just last year, I had clients from Alaska who he just flew down here for a day to just walk the property with me. And then he went back to Alaska and we just did everything with his family in Alaska and me down here running the fort.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I love to be able to help them out like that and be as resourceful as I can so that they don't have to come down here. But
yeah, well, and when it comes down to maybe like sewer scopes and all that, are you always there? Like, since they can't be if they're, out of town and can't be at everything, or, what are some things that you kind of bring to that?
Yeah. So like, obviously if they need to, the first thing I'll always do is a video walkthrough of the place first. So I get there and I record, before they come, so that they can kind of see how the floor plan is first and actually be there versus just staring at the photos. Because everybody knows staring at photos, it's hard to really imagine what your floor plan is actually like. And so that's the first thing I'll do. And if they like that, and then they actually will make the decision to fly. And I mean, I've had clients that wanted to purchase things on sight unseen, but they actually never went through. And I'm like, hey, I know you trust me and I'm always going to do my very best by you. I'm not going to let you buy something that's not great. But at the end of the day, we're different people. Like I still highly recommend you finding a way to get down here, because it's just, even though you trust me and I know you very well, I'm still not you. There might be something that your brain sees that mine wouldn't see as a problem.
Right.
Because I don't think it's a problem.
Right.
And so I always still encourage them. But yeah, I definitely do that first. And then once we're actually after they've come down, we get under contract, then yes, I'm present at everything. every roadmap that possibly can. They get weekly updates from me. I let them know how the process is going. Communication, like I said earlier, is biggest key, whether they live 5 minutes from me or 50 miles, 50,000 miles. It's just communication, letting them know what's happening, keeping them informed, and letting them know that I got this. And this is why I'm here, to take the stress away from you and keep this handled. And so if anything comes up, I'm like, hey, I want you to know about this, but here is how I'm handling it.
There you go. So
I always try and figure out my solution before I ever even let them know the problem. Because I think it's really important to still inform them of the problem. Because it's not good to keep anything from your clients. I'm like, hey, you need to know that we ran into this. I always promise to be honest with you. That's my slogan, is business built on integrity. And I stand very firm in that. Integrity is my most important thing. And so I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you, but here's the thing. We're going to fix it. We got it. And if it's not fixable, then I have those hard conversations. And it's like, hey, this is what we ran into. Here's how we can get around it. Or here's what we have to do that's hard.
Got it. I just even, you speaking about just, I believe in anything you say. So
thanks. I try.
I love it. Some goals that you have for yourself. Do you have anything that you're kind of willing to, maybe yearly goals, or just
one of my current goal is I definitely want to get my own space opened up in either Cami or Kuski, wherever it is.
Little shop.
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely. I have no intentions to branch away from Century 21 Price, right? So it would still be Wendy's name on the door, but me having my own building, minimize my traveling down here so much. But regardless of even having my own space, I'm gonna miss the camaraderie in this office down here. I love all of my co-agents; they're wonderful human beings. But I definitely think it's really important for me to have that identity and that space in those communities, because that's one issue that I can run into. Is it's sometimes I don't like not having a space my clients can come to, or customers, and be like, I want to have an office. I want to give them somewhere that they feel comfortable to discuss their private matters. So that's definitely one of my biggest goals. I hope to achieve that one. My goal is by the end of next year.
Cool.
To definitely get that accomplished.
Very cool.
To get me a space down there. But I have lots of goals for the business, but it's kind of more so just like personal growth goals and how I want to do my business and advocate for my clients, essentially. But as far as something that's measurable, that's my biggest one.
I like that. That's very cool. Team. Would you ever consider doing a team?
I don't know if I'd ever consider a team. I would need to educate myself more on a team structure and how they work. That's one thing that I've never really looked into or understood. The teams that exist here in the Valley, they seem really great, functional.
Right.
But
it's different. But I mean, I don't know how you go from individual to still be an individual, but on a team,
and that's the thing that I don't know. I'd have to educate myself on and see how it works. So I don't want to say that it's not something I'd ever do.
Right.
I just don't know enough about it to see if it's something that I'd even consider.
Yeah.
So, I would definitely love the idea of recruiting agents to our brokerage so that I wouldn't be alone in my little office down here. So that's definitely a goal. But yeah, I don't know. I just have to educate myself more on that.
Is the tour thing, do you come down and do like the association's tours?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. They never go out of town, right? It's always in town. If there was a way, I mean, that's kind of a lot to drive now that I think about it.
That's the hard part. Everything's so distant.
Time and distance.
It would have to be something that's done like each town individually would have to have a tour. We could do a tour of Cami's listings and then Orfino's. But honestly, I think it's more beneficial to try and host like a broker's open.
There you
go. Rather than try and get somebody to just take that time out of their day to do a drive.
Sure. Well, because what is isn't each town like going to Grangeville 8 minutes apart? Aren't they all something
much
like that?
farther than that? But
I was like, I swear, I thought at least from. Oh gosh, wasn't it Winchester to Cottonwood or Ferdinand to Cottonwood? I was like, I swear
those ones are minimal,
maybe 8 minutes apart.
But it's like Grangeville to Cottonwood is about 15 minutes, and then
do you consider Fenn?
Excuse me, yes, I guess Fenn is a town, right? Does that count? Are they on the map?
It's a bump. It's literally a bump.
No, it's a grain tower. It's a grain tower and a thrift store.
At least they have that.
They do.
I lived in Ferdinand too for a while, and my family used to own the bar in town. And so, yeah. And then I remember when the highway was going through Ferdinand
Yeah.
back in the day.
That too.
Mm-hmm.
Then they just bypassed it.
I know.
Cut it off.
Oh,
But yeah, that's the one thing that I found so weird here is when I talk to people, they'd be like, a 20-minute drive is appalling. Like if it's 20, I'm not going. That's too far. And I'm like, 20 minutes? That's I'll do anything in 20 minutes. That's so much like that's
an hour to get to Lewiston to go do our shopping. And and you talk to people in the big cities and they're like, oh yeah, it takes an hour to get to work, their commute.
Right.
But it's like for what we have in those small towns to be able to get to our just, a grocery store, to Costco.
Yeah.
Was our monthly stock up.
Yep.
And it's now I can just go to Costco.
I know.
For one thing and
it's amazing.
I never can just get one thing. I know.
Isn't
that wild?
Because like I grew up with it's a drive to go anywhere. That's just part of living where I live is no matter where you're going, it's a drive. If I decide that I want ice cream at 9:00 at night, I mean, my husband goes, I ain't going, but he's got a 10-minute drive to town for that. And so, yeah, it's interesting how different the life is, even though we're so close.
Yeah. And you've always grown up in Grangeville.
I've never known anything different.
That was it.
So that's why I was always like, 20 minutes is too much for you? Like, interesting.
I skied on the Snow Haven and then I worked there for a little bit of time, but I'm so bummed this year's winter kind of took
They existed.
No. And it's like, what now what? Because that's like I heard that the ski hills they're not doing good.
No.
And there's no insurance or anything for those things. No. It's just
but I mean it's apparently this isn't the first time I've had a few people tell me that like slow winters have happened before. I've personally never seen one in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But I guess that they've happened before and it's very rare for it to happen again. So next year, I'm sure they'll have a very busy season. But they did actually get a good amount of snow, I think 2 weeks ago. So as far as I know, they're open right now.
Oh, good. I don't know. Is even Cottonwood open?
I have not heard of Cottonwood opening.
Yeah. I don't even know.
Snow Haven opened for one weekend.
Closed.
And then they closed. Yes. And then they've been closed. And then, like I said, I know they were open 2 weekends ago, and I haven't heard of them closing again. So I'm assuming they still have snow, but I could be wrong, which is weird because it's like normally it's
yeah. Did your dad farm?
We grew up ranching. Okay. So yeah. I mean, I have one of my cousins, she is very big farmers. And so, but we grew up doing the ranching thing. We did the rodeos and the cows and all of that. And I wouldn't trade that lifestyle for anything.
Very cool.
One of my favorite parts of growing up was gathering cows, branding, all of that, the rodeos, the whole thing.
Acreage, everything. Yeah.
Was
when it comes down to farm like land, what are some differences have you had to encounter for sale?
Actually, something that I haven't spent a lot of time on, surprisingly yet, is agriculture.
Sure.
I definitely want to get into it, but touching on ag and selling farmland and those big acreage properties is not something that I've touched on. So far, I've just done smaller acreage properties. Like
I don't think I've ever asked anybody that, really.
The most I've done is 50 acres, and it's been... I loved it. It was a learning experience because obviously doing vacant land and farmland is completely different than residential.
Yes.
Whole different transaction process.
Listen, I don't even do vacant land for loans, so that's a whole different
right. Too. And so no, I would definitely love to educate myself on the process, but there are agents in the area who that's their expertise. Yeah. That's what they work on is and I would never turn somebody down if they came to me and wanted me to list their land or they wanted to find land. I would put everything I had into doing it for them, but it's definitely another thing that I need to educate myself further on and see what I can learn about it.
Yeah. One question that I'm now asking everybody, are you a candy corn lover or a Peeps marshmallow lover?
Can I say neither?
No.
That's actually really ironic that you asked that because I was in the grocery store with my husband last weekend and I picked up Peeps and I was like, the devil. And he was like, Peeps are really good. And I was like, sir?
Peep lover?
And then I was like, let me guess, you like candy corn too? And he goes, yes, I do. And I was like, okay, we did not discuss this.
I've been doing the last few episodes just because it's just funny.
That's funny.
Get a little answer. That is hilarious.
Growing up, I remember as a kid, I loved Peeps. I really did.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I guess I will eat candy corn. I don't swear it off, but I'm not. I'm not gonna go for
If you
it.
had to pick, it would
If I
be
had
candy
to pick,
corn.
it'd be candy corn.
Dara and I are candy corn people.
Yeah,
So
I would have to pick, but either of them, no, I'm not gonna see.
can I tell you an answer for? I don't know if did you watch Chantel's?
I did not.
Oh my gosh, what did she say? She wants old Peeps left out, like Peeps. Yeah, I know.
Chantel, what does it even mean?
I love this question now because now I have to ask you. That's hilarious that you had that conversation with your husband.
Because obviously the Peeps are in the stores right now.
Yeah.
And so it was I was appalled. I was like, we did not discuss this before marriage.
It's a game changer. See, it's a interesting one. You're like, but why?
I'm like, what's good about them? Yeah. But whatever. You do you, I guess.
I also ask, favorite neighborhood or area. I can maybe ask now outside of town, what's your favorite area?
If you would have asked me before my husband and I moved, I obviously would have said Grangeville, like the prairie. I loved it. That was my favorite place to be, the mountains, everything. But now that I've moved down to where I'm at,
by the river,
I love it. I love being by the river because the mountains are still right there. Absolutely. They're right there. So I'm like, I live on the mountain myself. Yeah. But I got a 10-minute drive and I can go fishing.
Are you up on the hill?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So I'm up on the hill, which is really nice. Yeah. And so I personally love it. The one thing though is on the prairie, you get the wind. Yes. Endless wind.
Oh, that road from Cottonwood to Grangeville. Oh my gosh.
Drifting in the wintertime is
absolutely.
So I definitely do not miss the wind at all. And I'm so glad that I'm down in the canyon now with no wind, but the fog. You trade the wind for the fog. And I had no idea. Like I had never spent that much time down there, but every day. Every single day.
Especially when your drive here.
And it's hard because like sometimes I've been driving through the fog and it's literally like my vision gets weary because it's just hard to see. Yeah. But I'd still take the fog over the wind. I really would because it eventually breaks. The wind just lasts forever. But it's interesting. The one thing that you trade.
How funny. Well, and I mean, not that we're so like if you looked at the map and the distance between the two, it's like it's not that far. But same thing here in town. You're going to get snow in the orchards and rain in the downtown here. It's just like that. It's weird. Tiny little bit of difference.
And it's so weird because, like as the crow flies, there's no distance at all. Yeah. As the windy road drives, it's forever.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I actually had a wedding. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Oh, my gosh. I'm getting all my wedding stuff mixed up. I went to the Kamei land. Oh gosh, now in
the Landmark Ranch?
Yes.
Very
beautiful.
Gorgeous.
And there was an Airbnb that they got to rent, that mansion.
Yup.
In the middle of Kamei Mountain. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, my sister lives.
No way.
Like 10 minutes from the Landmark Ranch.
Really?
Yes, you passed the Landmark Ranch.
Got it.
And her and her husband have 200 acres, I think.
Oh,
they have very old ranch style home, barn, shop, the whole things. It's beautiful. She's I used to say she lives. I mean, I'll still say she lives in the boonies. I nicknamed my oldest nephew. His song is the Boondocks because born and raised in the Boondocks. But it's one of my favorite places to go. She's just in her own little.
Oh, I love that. Well, and it's like I mean, I've been all up and around these parts. I sound like a hick. Been all up around these parts, but to just end up in this 15-bed mansion on the middle of Kamei Mountain, I was like, "What is this?
You're like, this is weird.
This is wild, but it's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous, so cool. And that's a highly sought after place.
Yes. Highly. And now the wedding venue there now too. It's like, is it getting a little more traction?
So much traction.
Oh yeah,
you'll find they get booked up pretty quick.
Dang. Oh yeah, for sure.
I've been to multiple weddings there. I know multiple people that have had weddings there that I didn't attend, and it's a beautiful place. Somebody put a lot of thought into that.
And did you guys get married on the prairie?
We got married in Cooterville.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
So we got married at the church in Cooterville, but then our reception was in Grangeville at a family property.
Very cute.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was
congrats then.
Thank you
on all your accomplishments, and everything. I feel like I've taken up a good chunk of your time anyway.
I've been having a ball.
Listen, Daryl, I don't know. He told me my time mark, and I'm like, well, feels close. Still red. Oh, good. Look
40
at
minutes. Look at
that.
that.
It flies by once you start talking.
We're just visiting,
I
having fun. I
know.
feel like we're just having coffee together.
I know.
I just got these big headphones on.
I do this on the daily.
So I know when I take these off, I'm gonna feel like I'm yelling, but
There are times when we're in here and my ears will get hot, and I'm like, we've been in here for a while.
yeah,
It's time to go.
yeah, like we're done.
Well, Rachel, I really loved having you on here, getting to know you, being able to see where you end up in your career down the line. I'm just so thrilled to be a part of it. So,
Thank you
cheers.
so much for having me.
Yes.
I have loved this conversation with you.
Yay.
And yes, I am definitely excited to see where I go and have you along for the journey.
Thank you. Of course. Cheers.